Hi, and welcome to your summit. Your wait is over. Postmenopausal women scaling back is a theme where you're going to get lots of information on from the many experts that I'm talking with on how to minimize your weight. I imagine that's what you'd like to do since you're here listening. And so the intention of this series of conversations is to empower postmenopausal women with information and practical tips that allows you to lose the weight and get your vitality back. I'm your host, Jean Natray, weight loss expert, and I'm very happy to be joined by with Dr. Becky Gillaspy. And a little bit about her. She is a nutrition and fitness expert. She actually teaches the science of nutrition at a college level in Pennsylvania. She runs her own fitness company, which is exclusively online, so you'll see her all over YouTube. And her blog was named one of the top up-and-coming websites to watch in 2017 by the Huffington Post. Excellent, Becky. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yes.
And she's a formerly overweight sugar addict, so maybe we'll hear something about that dastardly ingredient, sugar.
Yes, we can certainly delve into that for sure.
Yeah. So first, let's talk about why is it that when we hit menopause, our body just wants to hang on to weight?
It does, doesn't it? We've probably all seen that in ourselves, but what
I've been there for sure.
Yeah. What is the thing behind that? Well, there is actually a biological reason for that our body actually would like to hold on to fat after menopause. And that has everything to do with estrogen. We tend to think of fat as just something that kind of sits on our body, but there's a lot going on within our fat metabolism. One of the things fat does is it acts as an endocrine organ, and that simply means that it can produce hormones. One of the hormones, obviously, that we have lower in our bodies after menopause is estrogen. You know, our ovaries are no longer producing estrogen like we had hoped, like we had experienced premenopausally, and our fat cells can produce some of that estrogen that we're missing. So the body naturally has an inclination to hold on to some fat because more fat cells means more estrogen, and that's kind of where we are. But of course, we don't really want that to be happening. So we need to work with our bodies to kind of nudge it in the other direction.
Right, exactly. And is there anything in our diet, that we live with, that we almost endure? I almost want to say that promotes that estrogen factor to be out of balance. Certainly, menopause is nothing out of balance, but the estrogen factor, I've heard, is promoted to be out of balance with a not desirable diet.
Well, certainly, we will influence our hormones by how we're eating. There's a lot of factors that we could go into with that, and some of that comes from just years of poor eating. We have cortisol that gets factored into that. Cortisol is what we think of as our stress hormone. Mm-hmm. If we are eating, if we're constantly subjecting ourselves to stress, we're producing our adrenal glands. These are the little glands that sit on top of our kidneys. Mm-hmm. They pump out a lot of cortisol. Well, cortisol is a very powerful hormone. Its main job is to keep us alive when something's threatening us. The fight or flight type of stuff. So it tends to take the front and center. So if we're constantly under stress, it will overpower estrogen. It'll overpower our thyroid hormones and things like that. And all of those things are going to factor into how our body is staying balanced hormonally.
And are there any foods that you could share with us that we should very much avoid to help to balance this hormonal situation, and any foods that we should really include into our diets?
Yes. Well, when we get into menopause, what I always like to say is it's important to starve our fat cells, but not starve ourselves. So what I mean by that is that we want to feed ourselves in a way that is not encouraging fat storage, but rather encouraging fat burning. So the main thing that we're looking at, and we already talked about this at the very beginning, is sugar, refined carbs, things like that. When we eat those types of foods, they go right into our bloodstream as blood sugar, and that causes an increase in insulin. Well, insulin is the hormone that is in charge of fat storage. Its job is to tell caloric ingredients that make it into our bloodstream, like sugar, where to go. So it can put a little bit in our muscle, it can put a little bit in our liver, but there's not a whole lot of storage room there. So if we're constantly feeding ourselves sugar, refined carbs, even starchy carbs like our corns and rice, breads, potatoes, those types of starchy carbs, they're all going to break down into sugar, and they're all going to overload our bloodstream with sugar, cause that insulin to dump calories into our fat cells. So we need to, if we want to starve our fat cells, well, that's how we do it. We don't feed our bodies the foods that naturally go into fat storage, and so that would mean cutting back on sugar, for the most part, completely, as much as we possibly can, and also cutting back on refined carbs and processed foods and things like that.
Do you have any tips of what we can do to minimize those carb and sugar cravings?
Yeah, so that's a big thing, right? So we think to ourselves, okay, I understand this, sugar's the problem, so I'm going to get that out of my diet. Well, so then we get it out of our diet, and then, well, now what? Now what do I eat? So we were talking earlier about the enjoyment of your diet. I always say you're never going to stick with a diet long term and get the results that you want unless you're enjoying it. Well, Jean, you and I both know sugary foods, refined foods, these are some of our fun foods, right? These are our breads and our pastries and our cereals and things like that. So if we're going to remove those foods, we need to replace them with something else, something that makes our diet enjoyable. The main thing that we have to be making sure that we're getting enough of is healthy fats.
Yes.
We have been told for decades, and our generation, we grew up, right, starting from like the 60s, 70s and on up. That's in the 70s is when we really started to look at fat as evil. And so most of us, through most of our really years where we were paying attention to our diet, it was always fat is evil, fat makes you fat. Boy, I'll tell you what, the research has flip-flopped on that.
Yes, it has.
Yeah. And so we need to bring those fats back in, but now we're working against this mindset, this mentality that we have so ingrained in us that fats are bad.
Yeah, and that brings us to a point. It's difficult to change, even in the face of obvious recent scientific research that fats are good. So we just want to say it again, fats are good, eat lots of good fats. And we know those are olive oil, olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, olives, avocados, and saturated fats are good for us as well.
Yeah, and nuts and seeds. If we're not eating nuts and seeds, I prefer to go with raw nuts and seeds, because if we get the ones that are roasted and you buy in the package, well, they've probably been roasted in what we would consider our bad fats, and those are actually our vegetable oils. So if the package has vegetable oil, it has soybean oil, corn oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, those types of oils I don't encourage you to eat. They're easily broken down in the body and can cause harm when they're in, as opposed to the saturated fats, which are very stable fats. So they get in, they actually help the integrity of our cell membranes.
Yes.
And that helps us, another thing I work with women a lot on is thyroid issues.
Oh, great. Tell us about that, because I know if you have a thyroid imbalance, it's hard to lose weight, right?
Oh, certainly. Yeah, certainly. Well, and there are a lot of things that you can do for thyroid function through your diet. I will tell you, if your thyroid issues have been going on for too long, you might need a little bit of supplementation from a medication. But if you just started to experience some of the thyroid problems, coldness, losing hair, you're gaining weight too easily, those types of things that we naturally associate with the thyroid. You can correct a lot of it through diet. So a lot of us, because we've had a poor diet, we might have some gut health issues that have come up. If your gut health is not strong, then you can have problems where the immune system is starting to attack, like a leaky gut type of situation is what I'm referring to. So if we have, you might have like a gluten or a dairy type of an allergy that starts up. Well, those types of proteins can leak into your body. Your immune system sees them. They look a lot like thyroid cells to your immune system, and then that can cause your thyroid to get attacked unnecessarily by the immune system.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You know, another big factor in wellness and weight loss is exercise. And what can you say about that? Should we do more or do less during menopause time, or what?
Exercise is always great, but exercise, I think, is great for overall health, cardiovascular health. It helps with digestion. It helps with your general health type of factors. One common thing I see with women who, after menopause, they would like to lose weight, they'll immediately go to a quick increase in intensity or duration of their exercise routine. And what we have to be careful of is a couple of things. First of all, if we do that, it will spike your hunger. So if you go from the couch to full-blown activity, you should expect some hunger increase. A lot of times I think women will do that, and then they start to blame themselves and say, oh, I can't control my hunger. Well, you've changed the physiology of your body. Another thing is that we are often in a big hurry to get weight off. So we go into very high intensity. The high intensity exercises of our years ago, when we were in our 20s and 30s, they can now be perceived as a stress on the body. Wow. And this is where we were just talking about cortisol and that stress hormone, right? And how it overpowers the other hormones, because it is one of our survival type of hormones. So it's going to take the front page there. Mm-hmm. Well, if we're doing that, then that could actually have a negative effect on our thyroid function, our thyroid hormones. So exercise is great, love it, really encourage it, but you have to increase it in increments and allow your body to adapt to it.
And so do you recommend increasing? Well, it depends on where you're at, doesn't it?
So I think that you start where you're at your level, and then as each week progresses, you can add a little bit of intensity. I like to vary intensity of exercises. So a slow walk to a faster walk, or a fast walk to a jog, and then back again. And just increasing duration, as the weeks go on, is perfectly fine, because your body is adapting to the exercise. It's getting used to it, and it's going to, all work for your favor.
Right. Okay. Good things to keep in mind. And okay, so one of your tenets is pretty fascinating to me. You talk about starving your fat cells, mm-hmm. not yourself. Mm-hmm. How do we go about doing that?
Yeah, so that is all diet, right? So that is we don't eat the foods that will feed into feed into our fat cells, and those are our sugars and our refined carbohydrates that we were talking about. We want to eat in a way that keeps our insulin levels low. So we hear a lot about insulin. Insulin is that hormone that reacts when our blood sugar goes up. So we want to choose foods that are not going to cause an increase in our blood sugar. The way we design our diet for that is high fiber and moderate good healthy fats, like we were talking about before. Because fiber and fat, they will both slow down the rate at which our body digests our food. So instead of eating something that quickly goes into our, like a sugary type of a treat that quickly goes into our system, spikes our blood sugar, there goes our insulin. Insulin's up, its fat is getting stored. Fiber and the other fiber and healthy fats, they slow the digestion. So blood sugar rises slowly, insulin rises slowly, and now your body says, okay, this is a situation we like, right? Because now I can drip energy into the muscles, I can drip it into the liver where it can be stored for good, quick energy when I need it, instead of, opening the fat cell doors and just slamming it in.
Right. Okay, great. And you often talk about the importance of enjoying your diet. Yeah, that's one of the great pleasures in life is food.
It is.
Tasting food. And so why do you think it's so important? And what do you suggest a woman does to increase the enjoyment of her diet?
Yeah, it really is. And I think probably more as I get older, the more I understand that you really have to enjoy your diet. Diets should not be something that we go on and with the anticipation of going off, right? It's much better if we can start eating in a way that is enjoyable and allows us to see the results. So there was an interesting study, a symposium done actually a few years back, where it was a group of doctors, and their objective was to figure out why people do not follow very basic healthy living lifestyle type of activities. And what they found was very interesting. They found that people who stuck with their diets long term were on a program that was simple for them to carry out. It was effective, so it actually, they were able to see the progress, right? They could step on the scale and see their weight going down on a consistent basis, for example. And it was enjoyable. This is something, Jean, I always refer to as the 3 E's. In order for you to stick with your diet and have a long-term healthy life, your plan has to be easy, enjoyable, and effective. So enjoyment is a big part of that. We don't keep doing things that we don't enjoy. We stop that. Yeah.
And that kind of touches a bit on mind over matter, because when you're kind of saying to yourself and feeling, oh, wow, this tastes really good. I'm so happy to be having this wonderful, nutritious meal. I love the taste of it. It's such a pleasure. I look forward to it. That fuels your cells to do a better job and to receive that nutrition. I mean, you don't have to effort at it, but that's just an obvious outcome that you're either thinking or saying to yourself, like, oh, this is so yummy, I love this. So it's kind of a biofeedback for your body, if you will, right?
Yeah. What I always like to say is if I'm going to eat something, it has to taste good and it has to leave me feeling good afterwards. I don't want to just, a candy bar tastes good, but I am not going to feel good after I eat it. So, it's kind of one of those little mantra type of things that runs through my head, and it makes it easier to bypass that.
Yeah.
Another thing, as far as enjoyment, I will tell you one of the things that I really encourage women to do is to learn how to make a salad enjoyable. If you can make a salad on a consistent basis that you look forward to eating, boy, you've conquered a lot of your problems. So,
do you want to share with us some of the wonderful ingredients that you enjoy in a salad that might not typically be there?
Well, always have raw nuts or seeds. and oftentimes both. I'll often put walnuts on, or slivered almonds, raw sunflower seeds. I will put a little feta cheese on. Some women may have some issues with dairy. I think they sometimes can be overcome, especially when we're talking about the fatty dairy. So I put a little bit of feta cheese on. Might not be for everybody. Yeah, I have, an oil and vinegar, like a flavored balsamic vinegar is a really enjoyable thing to add too. So yeah, I've learned how to craft a salad that I really enjoy and really look forward to. Black beans is also a thing that I put on quite
What
often.
is it?
Black beans or chickpeas, roasted chickpeas I'll put on. So those types of foods also, they have a lot of fiber. So they are going to help with that digestion slowly. We talked about, Jane, the 0, 1, 2, 3 strategy.
Right. Yes, let's talk about that some more.
Right. Well, one large salad is part of that strategy. So the 0, 1, 2, 3 strategy is something that I've put together that really it's 4 daily habits. When you follow these daily habits, they really give your body no choice but to lose weight. 0 stands for 0 sugar. 1 stands for 1 large salad, which we were just talking about. 2 stands for 2 cups of cooked non-starchy vegetables. And 3 means 3 hours before bed, stop eating. So you can see from just those 4 things, we've cut out the worst thing that we've been talking about as far as diet, right? Sugar. But we've also increased our fiber tremendously. That 1 large salad, those 2 cups of cooked vegetables, which you can have along with your dinner, they're going to put a lot of fiber into your diet. And the 3 hour before bedtime rule, well, that has to do with time restricted eating, or what I know you and I were talking about with intermittent fasting. It's very similar. So.
Excellent. And I understand that this 0, 1, 2, 3 method is part of your gift that you're offering. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So if anyone would like a good place to get started, the 0, 1, 2, 3 strategy is a great thing to start with. I have a full video series that I'm offering to the people that are watching your telesummit here. It comes along with a little PDF that has all of the rules spelled out for you. You can just print it out and put it on your refrigerator. It just shows you how to incorporate these 4 daily habits into your life, and why they are so beneficial to stabilizing your blood sugar, keeping, so that you are feeding yourself and not feeding your fat cells.
Sure. And it sounds like when we make these changes, like those 4 tips that you're going to be providing for us as your free gift, that when we start incorporating those things, it kind of makes the changes easier. The changes of going from, let's say, a bad diet to a good diet, which is basically what we're talking about here. So by doing those, making changes in steps and incrementally, it makes it easier, and you're going to be more successful at making those changes.
Yeah. We often there's so much that gets thrown at us. We don't know where to start.
Yeah.
So 0, 1, 2, 3 is really a great way to start. I don't know if you're going to point people, send them a link, or if you.
I believe that's already handled when they click on your beautiful face and your bio on the telesummit screen.
Yep, they can just find that on my website.
Yeah, like that. Okay, so I guess that's about it for now, but I certainly appreciate all the wonderful wisdom that you've imparted, and the scientific information as well. And so let's call it an interview, and sure appreciate it, Becky.
Yeah, thanks.
Talk with you, and bye for now, everybody. Oh, and everyone, check your mailbox for tomorrow morning. There'll be a couple of other interviews there for you to watch. Okay, bye.